Don't you hate it when you have to cut out the best part of your video? Well, I do. As part of my video to cover Carney's conflicts of interest from a balanced perspective, which I think I achieved because I managed to piss off both sides of the aisle here, I reacted to a portion of a video by a massive Canadian YouTuber, Moose on the Loose, or Dave, where I gave his take a D+, for making some decent points but throwing out some wild stuff around as well. Near the end of his 20-minute video, he hard pivoted from Carney's conflicts of interest to bring up corruption allegations against the Liberals from the Trudeau era, which I cut out of the final video because it wasn't really that relevant to the main story. However, in the effort of fully grading his video, I think I need to criticize his hot take on the great heat pump scandal of 2023 or 2024 or whatever, because I'm sorry, Dave fans, I know some of you guys like him, and I know that he's the worst commentator out there, but this shit is bonkers. He starts off by mentioning that we should be on guard against Carney inflating Brookfield's investment values, which I think is a valid concern, but then the example he gives, well, take a listen.
The key thing we're going to have to look for now, specifically with this list of 103, is Mark Carney inflating the value of these companies. Because remember back when Justin Trudeau announced free heat pumps for Canadians?
To be blunt, the price signal on heating oil is not resulting in enough people being able to switch to electric heat pumps, despite people wanting to move to these cleaner home heating options.
Nobody wants to move to heat pumps, Justin, because most people, unless you live on Vancouver Island, most people have temperatures that get too low for heat pumps to work. But they knew that. But it was all about pumping up Brookfield and Trane and other heat pump companies' stock value.
Ah, yes. Trudeau announced free heat pumps for Canadians with oil furnaces, whose sole purpose was to pump the stock value of Trane. So I just looked it up, and in a few years, about 20,000 people had new heat pumps installed, with about $235 million of grants issued to date. Now, setting aside whether or not you like heat pumps, I don't have one for example, but then again, I actually know somebody who used to have an oil furnace, and they switched to propane because oil was absurdly expensive, and if they weren't on the usurious Hydro One rural customer rates, it probably would have been cheaper for them to get a heat pump with this government program if it was available to them. But anyways, I'm glad they didn't, because apparently this program was just to pump the stock price of Trane, who makes heat pumps and is apparently the only one who makes them. And do you know why? So that Brookfield can make money off.
But they knew that. But it was all about pumping up Brookfield and Trane and other heat pump companies' stock value.
And why? So that Carney can make money. And so Trudeau can make money. Don't you see, people? It's a liberal conspiracy! Mask off!
We heard our Atlantic MPs and we heard Atlantic Canadian.
The only thing this guy heard was the sound of money going into his bank account.
That we are unwavering.
So his unwavering support was to jack the value of companies like Trane. You can see here, Trane Technologies. This is Brookfield Asset Management Portfolio Holdings. Trane, which produces heat pumps in Canada. They've got $2.77 million, almost $3 million worth. I'm really surprised the media didn't pick this up a little late last year. I broke this story. I stumbled upon this on accident, and all you have to do is look at the time here, Justin Trudeau making this announcement on October 26, 2023. This here is Trane Technologies. You can see up here their stock chart. Justin Trudeau gets in right here, and you can start to see this thing starting to cook.
Okay, look. I was never a big fan of Justin Trudeau, but saying Justin Trudeau gets in here as if he invested money right before announcing free heat pumps, that's accusing him of illegal insider trading, which is illegal. Not just illegal for him, but if you're wrong, it's technically defamation. I think what you meant to say is Justin Trudeau announced subsidies here, and presumably Brookfield got rich and maybe Trudeau already had stock. But the way you worded it made it sound like he invested a bunch of money, then announced subsidies, which you've not provided any evidence for at all. Unless you're referring to when Trudeau got into office, like as Prime Minister, but that is completely unrelated. Like, that happened 8 years prior, so I don't know what you mean by that.
Justin Trudeau gets in right here, and you can start to see this thing starting to cook. And if we zoom in, when exactly is October 26, 2023? Where would you guess it is? It's right there. He announces free heat pumps, and look at the price of the stock here. How many Liberals got rich off of this? This is what we're looking for here.
Wow, this sounds very compelling, doesn't it? And to think the mainstream media was silent on this issue because all the liberals and their buddies were too busy getting rich off of this. I found the source Dave is using and couldn't help but notice you can actually drill down and get transaction information on shareholdings over time by clicking on this little button right here. Now this is based off disclosure, so it isn't true transaction level reporting, but it does provide periodic updates. Up here, the most recent one shows that Brookfield has $2.77 million invested in Train, which ties off to the totals Dave was reporting on. So let's see what Brookfield actually did. The left column is the day these reports were filed. The right column is when they are effective. So we can see here that by the end of 2021, Brookfield owned 10,000 shares of Train. They bought some, they sold some, and then by June 30th, they owned $15.5 million worth of Train shares. Now let's set aside for now the fact that you're not going to move the price of Brookfield with $15 million of Train shares. Take a look over here. September 30th, 3 weeks before Trudeau announces he's going to start funneling taxpayer dollars into Train, and Brookfield sells everything! Literally, when Trudeau started pumping the stock of Train, at least according to Dave here, Brookfield didn't own any shares in Train. What? F-tier globalist move. Come on, man. You know, I kind of actually feel bad for Trudeau here. He's risking life and limb for this alleged corruption, and Brookfield's over here like, nah, fam, I don't want that. But don't worry, because, you know, eventually, in Q1 of 2024, they buy back into Train, but this time for like $1 million, which is barely anything. So they end up missing like roughly 40% gain. And then when they finally get back in, they're half-assing it with this $2.7 million. Come on.
I'm really surprised the media didn't pick this up late last year. I broke this story.
Well, either that or this move wasn't actually designed to pump the stock of Train, but can you imagine how nuts that sounds?
I'm really surprised the media didn't pick this up late last year. I broke this story.
And then what story would Dave break? Actually, you know what? No, I'm not finished with this story here. You see, Train Tech is only one of several major heat pump manufacturers alongside Carrier, Lennox, and Mitsubishi Electric, not to mention local Canadian company Napoleon. So let's assume that Train gets only 1/3 of the market share. I couldn't find the actual breakdown, sorry guys. What that means is that Train got roughly $70 million over the last roughly 2 years, which is about $35 million a year. And that's revenue, not profit. Not the same thing.
I'm really surprised the media didn't pick this up late last year. I broke this story.
I'm not surprised nobody picked this up. I don't see what there is to break. Justin Trudeau announces free heat pumps worth a whopping $35 million a year for Train, maybe less if they own less than 1/3 of the market share, and somehow the stock price more than doubles? Okay, fine. If that's the case, this company must have been worth, what, like $50 million before? You know, so this free heat pump initiative is enough to move the needle by more than 100%. Take a guess how much the company was worth before. 50 million? 100 million? $1 billion? That's already stretching it, I know. Try a whopping $44 billion, give or take, depending on what day exactly you want to use. Oh, and that's in USD. Converting it to Canadian dollars, because the grants are in Canadian dollars, that means the company was worth over 60 billion Canadian dollars. That means Wall Street looked at a company worth 60 billion Canadian dollars and said, let's more than double its value because sales, not profits, will go up by 0.1% thanks to Trudeau's corruption. Wow. I thought the shadowy globalists were supposed to be good with money, like that was their one thing they were supposed to be good at. We need journalism like this from the CBC.
How many liberals got rich off of this?
Honestly, you know what? You're right. I couldn't tell you. And yes, I should also point out that the broader market rose 50% since October 2023. So half the gains you were so worried about were probably just reflecting the wider economic growth.
This is what we look for, because these guys are a bunch of scoundrels.
Also, if you want the icing on top of this shit cake, the oil to heat pump initiative was announced a year before October 2023. Pre-registrations opened up in February, so none of this fucking matters. D-.